So Jess, I know you've thought a lot about that topic in terms of how would you modify the building. Would you like to say a little bit about that?
Yep. Can you all hear me? Is my microphone, is it on? Yep. So I also wanted to just introduce myself in a really different way than I did when I gave my talk this morning, which is just more about what motivates me to do the science that I'm engaged in. And I think that Jeff and I may have be coming from maybe not a very different place, but it might sound that way when I represent myself now, is it really helps me to have a North Star, a really big vision of how I'm deciding what kind of research that I'm working on. And if you were going to, for me, the North Star, again, is having, really focusing our research on performance outcomes. And those performance outcomes that I talked about earlier today include environmental health, and that is, environment outside of the built environment. Occupant experience, so Jeff just talked about thermal comfort, and that is one variable around occupant experience, and then also occupant health. And I think that that's really where this field is going, is figuring out how to optimize those performance outcomes using these new tools and technologies that we have available to us. Now, the ways that you can do that, there's many different paths forward. There's experimental path forward where we could use model organisms. There's a rich history of doing that and study the built environment of classic model organisms. I gave an example of light box research that we were doing today. You can do longitudinal studies of the built environment, and another realm is interventions. So there is a rich history of demonstrating that specific interventions can change the indoor microbiome attributes of it. So I would say that the clinical research allergy community has shown that there are interventions that can be successful. And another approach is a big data approach, and that's an approach that I am really fond of. And using a big data approach to answering these questions requires that you have a method of uniformly capturing samples in the indoor environment, characterizing those samples, and that you have a way of collecting the right metadata. And I've come to the conclusion that there's no right or wrong path. And all of the people in this community, different people and research groups have different skill sets, and we should all do what we're good at and what we have the resources to do. But what I would value the most from this panel and from the community is really some guidance on how to prioritize what you're doing on a daily, weekly, and yearly basis so that we can be kind of heading towards that North Star.